Today we will be talking about the most powerful legal pickleball paddle available, the Gearbox Power Pro. I will be covering why I love this paddle so much and why I think that you should not get it. And joining me in this video is my aloof colleague, Yoshi.
Who are you calling aloof, you blubbering buffoon? Anyways, let me start with my first question. What makes the Gearbox Power Pro paddle so unique?
Great question. The Gearbox Power Pro is known for its innovative SST core technology, which offers exceptional quality and a consistent, solid feel. Unlike traditional paddles which use a honeycomb core, this one uses a ribbed core made entirely of carbon fiber, making it both powerful and lightweight. Now, to me, there are two very unique features of this paddle. The first one we all know is the power that it delivers, and we will be talking more about that later in this video. And the second unique trait is the sound of the paddle. When the paddle hits the ball, it mutes the sound of what a traditional pickleball sounds like. Here's an example of a Gearbox firefight versus a traditional paddle firefight. Notice the difference in the sounds. This is very useful for the people who live in neighborhoods where you might have some haters of the traditional sounds of pickleballs. Or if you like the idea of a muted pickleball sound, then this might be the paddle for you. Another advantage of this sound is that when you are returning the ball, now you have this sneaky advantage of your opponent not knowing if you're returning a hard hit or a soft hit. With a normal paddle, when you drive the ball, it makes a very loud sound. And when you hit a softer shot, it will usually make a softer sound. But with the Gearbox, your opponent's left in the dark guessing.
That's quite interesting about the muted sound feature. It's almost as if it's dampening the ball using some type of smart dampen technology to reduce paddle vibration to deliver a plush, controlled touch for enhanced comfort and shot mastery.
Yeah, it's pretty cool and a little weird to get used to, honestly. But ever since using it, I can't imagine going back to another paddle.
All right, but now I want to hear about this power and why everyone on the internet thinks it should be banned.
So the power here is where the paddle shines. Before discovering this paddle, if you had asked my friends what type of playstyle I'll have, they would have said that I have a more control and defense-oriented style. I never really throw drives because I just don't really know how to put in that power that all these ex-tennis players know how to do. I have a background of ping pong, so I do have really good reflexes and I like to spin the ball, but forehand drives, just not my thing. But ever since getting this paddle, my drives have definitely stepped it up. You can put very little effort and strength behind your hits, and you will be surprised at how fast that ball is returned. Like I said, I consider myself a more control-oriented player, and I find myself thriving in hand battles with my fast reflexes, but I would lack the power to finish off the point in extended firefights. My logic by getting this paddle is that with fast hands and good defense mixed in with insane power would equal me winning more points. And let me just say, the maths. You can effortlessly hit very powerful shots, which is both good and bad because you might find yourself sending out more balls often than not.
Interesting. And will you get all that power throughout the entire surface of the paddle, or is there a limited sweet spot?
So there's the thing. If you want the absolute most power in this paddle, then yes, you should hit the center of the paddle where the sweet spot is. However, there are plenty of times where I've hit the ball on not the center of the paddle, and I have felt more power than I would have through a traditional paddle. With that being said, I have noticed in some extended dink rallies, if I'm not on top of my game and the ball doesn't hit obviously right in the center, there are some times where the ball just dies, and not sure if that's just me or if there are dead spots on the paddle, but I have noticed a lot of dead balls. More so on the outer edge of the paddle, which obviously makes sense because we're getting further away from the sweet spot.
All right, that's good information to know. So how does the paddle feel in the hand? Any modifications you need to add?
I personally like the stock paddle weight, but I do know of people who continue to add lead tape to it. I myself even tried adding some lead tape to the throw of the paddle when I noticed that the twist weight was a little off, meaning when the ball were to hit the side of my paddle and twist, it would twist the whole paddle, and then the ball's dead. So I think the logic with the lead tape is to add more weight to the paddle so that it's less likely to twist on you when you're in the middle of a dink. Now I will say that I quickly removed the lead tape because although it did help with the sweet spot and the twist weight, it was causing pretty intense tennis elbow. I know, I'm one of those guys who've fallen victim to tennis elbow at pickleball, but hey, it was just too heavy for me. Some people love it. I know a lot of the pros really like weight on their paddles, but I'm not a pro and I have a weak elbow. So took the weight off and just got used to that, and I'm perfectly happy with its current weight. The one mod I do like to add is by adding a Hesicor grip. If you do have sweaty hands, I think it does help with the grip. I personally don't have sweaty hands and I throw an overgrip on it, so it's also supposed to help with the vibrations that you get from hitting the ball, which in turn would help with your tennis elbow if you had it. Even though I do have the Hesicor on most of my paddles, I still have tennis elbow. So at this point, it just looks cool. And then you do get some people complimenting your paddle like, hey, how do you like that Hesicor grip? And I say, feels good, looks cool. What else more do you want? Also, this is an edgeless paddle, so I do recommend adding on some edge tape just to protect your nice pricey investment that costs much more than it should. The edge tape also makes your paddle stand out and look cool because the stock look of the Gearbox is kind of boring in my opinion. Just the black on black, it's, I don't know, it's a little too basic.
You've been awfully positive about this paddle. Feels a little biased if you ask me. Give me some cons about it and things that you don't like.
Oh, trust me, I got some cons. The first con is going to be the lack of control that you will get from this paddle. As the name states, this is the Power Pro. This is the strongest, most powerful legal paddle in today's current pickleball market. And for that to even make sense, of course, it's gonna have a lot of pop to it, making it very hard to control, making your resets and dinks just tougher in general. This becomes more of an issue when you're getting into higher level play. I would consider myself a 4 to 4.5, 4 to 4.4. And when I'm playing people in my skill range, I usually have a really good advantage just with my hand speed and the extra power. However, when I play like my 5.0 friends and just my higher rated friends, it doesn't even matter because if I can't get to the kitchen by doing a good reset or drop, then I can't even win the hand battles that the power gives me because the opponents will just keep smacking the ball at me by my feet, forcing more pop-ups or misses, and it just prevents me from getting to the kitchen. And most points in pickleball are won at the kitchen. The stronger players can handle fastballs, speed ups, hand battles. The only way to really get them is to get to the kitchen, force an error on their side, and then put the ball away. But if they're keeping you back at the baseline, not letting you get to the kitchen with the resets, then you're never gonna win the point. Second con to me is a bit of a personal one, and that's with the tennis elbow. Now this may vary person to person and probably has a ton of variables that go into it, such as your form, your grip, your tendon strength, and whatever else you can think of. But when I use this paddle, I always end the session with some pain on my elbow. Granted, I do play a lot, and granted, I play pretty hard, and I also play with good people. So it makes sense that I am using a lot of energy and flaring up the elbow, and I'm not saying it specifically because of this paddle, but I have heard from other friends who have used this paddle where they also got some tennis elbow from it. And do what you will with that information. Even with my older paddles, I played with the Selkirk Halo Control, the Selkirk Lux paddle, and even a Vulcan paddle. I usually always end up feeling some type of elbow pain, and I've been using the Gearbox as my primary paddle since. I still get the tennis elbow. It's present through all the paddles, but just because I've heard other people who use the Gearbox also get the tennis elbow, just wanted to throw it out there. I'm hoping that Gearbox in the future does create a maybe shorter handle paddle or just a shorter body paddle, because I think the shorter the handle, maybe the less chance of tennis elbow. I think the more longer the paddle gets is the more strain that you could potentially endure. This is just my logic speaking. No science behind this. Just a thought. Let me know if you agree down below. Let me know if you ever got tennis elbow from this paddle. That would be very helpful. And the third con is the negative stigma that you may receive by just simply playing with this paddle in your recreational courts. Do you think other people look at you guys weird for using it?
Absolutely. They're like, what's that sound?
Why is it looking expensive?
Yeah, I can't hear it. I can't hear it.
Yeah, I would say the sound throws up a lot of people.
There are plenty of players out there who will dismiss the skill level of anyone using these paddles because they view it as a cheat code to get better at pickleball because it's giving you an unfair advantage versus other people.
Hey, what are your thoughts on the Gearbox?
Sucks. It really sucks. And everyone who uses it is just an
What has more power?
It doesn't matter. It's just the people that use the Gearbox just don't know how to play pickleball and they just want that paddle because they think it'll give them magical skills. but really they're just missing on this one.
Yes, this paddle is very strong, but it doesn't turn a 3.0 into a 5.5. You give a guy who doesn't know how to drive stick the fastest sports car in the world, but it's a manual, they're not going to beat you because they can't, because they don't know how to use it. So you give this very powerful paddle to someone who's inexperienced, they're going to send all these balls out, or they're going to pop up all the balls and you're going to put it away, or they just can't even get to the kitchen. That's just how it works. It still takes skill to use and can actually make you a worse player if you can't handle the power. So that argument of it making you better is null and void.
I can see the lack of control being an issue, and that's sad to hear about the tennis elbow. So after all of this, what are your thoughts on the paddle? Would you still recommend it?
So I've been using the Power Pro for over 3 months now, and of all the paddles that I've tried, I can confidently say that this one is my favorite and it has significantly increased my gameplay. It has taught me to hone my control and touch in drops and resets, as well as given me confidence in my drives and speed-ups. I love the muted sound that it gives, as well as the power it delivers to finish off hand battles and to put away the ball. Of all the paddle companies out there, I personally feel that Gearbox is the leader of innovation currently. With that being said, I probably would not recommend this paddle to most players. I think that this paddle is geared towards the advanced player who already has their control and touch down and just wants more power to finish off hand battles and to put away points. I also think it's a great singles paddle and can sometimes be a little too much for doubles. They do make a control version of this paddle, and from what I've seen, you still get a great amount of power from it. I personally have never used it. I still think it is a 14mm variant. I would think that's a good option if you don't want the entire power from this paddle. And with that, Gearbox literally just launched a new paddle that is actually the ultimate control version of this paddle. It's basically this paddle but toned down a little in the power category, and is now 16mm versus the 14mm, and it's supposed to give you a lot more touch and control, giving you better resets and drops to get you to the kitchen, but still has that power to finish off the point. So to me, that sounds like the perfect paddle, and that is the one that I would probably recommend to most players.
Wait, so they already made a control version of the Power Pro, and now they released another control paddle?
Yeah, I know. It's kind of confusing, but hey, Gearbox, if you're watching this video, I'd love to test that paddle out. Let me know.
So in summary, the Power Pro is a double-edged sword, where it has all the power you could want at the cost of control, but in the hands of an experienced player, it's a fierce weapon that goes unmatched in this current paddle world.
Yep.
Did it really need to take you this long to say that?